Howdy, y'all. Cooking with Dr. T for Tastee's Catering. We're back at you today. And today we're going to add to what we've already done and have in the oven our smoked jerked turkey wings and legs. So now we're going to go on to the cabbage. And if you've seen my other videos, you know, baby, I got to tie it up. I believe in making sure that you don't get more than you bargained for on your plate. So, before I start any task, I got to make sure that it's tied up. Okay. So before I start, so I messed with my hair, I got to make sure I wash these hands. And you'll see some people who love to cook with gloves when they're home. And that's right. When I'm cooking for other people, I do. But I'm cooking for my family. So this is a natural cooking, what goes on here. So just we know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this cabbage. Now, people cut cabbage all kinds of ways. I like to core it, get that out first, and then just go in with a nice sharp knife. And one thing about knives, you don't want to dull your knife. So you don't want to just be bam, 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 bam. You know, it's like having a young man who don't know what he's doing. Bam, 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 bam. You don't want to do that. By the time you're done, you're like, what was that? A bam, bam session. So I'm a little bit older, and I need it easy on up and down. And the reason I do that, and I have a colander here, is because I believe in washing all this, right? Because we know cabbage grows outside in the dirt. So I want to pull those leaves apart that I just sliced, right? So I can make sure that I get all the way in there. So when I rinse and wash them, that I can make sure any grit is coming down, right? So we're going to shred that on up right in there. And it's going to make it cook faster. And I cut across that little tough vein, right? Because, you know, that right there always takes a little bit longer to cook down. And people say cabbage takes all day. Cabbage don't take all day. If you got to cook it all day, then I don't know what kind of cabbage you're doing. Because you didn't cook all the nutrients out and all the good flavor. Cabbage, a good cabbage, you still want to have a little bite to it. But you want it to be soft. So you see I have that core in there? I'm going to take that out because I know that's not going to cook. And if it do, it's going to take forever and a day. That's why people cook cabbage for 18 hours. If they put those big old pieces in. So as I get closer and closer, I see that core piece right there? I don't want that hard piece. I want the pieces around it. So I'm going to break that on down to just like that. So now you see I've done that. I actually, before I start cutting, I will tell you I did rinse the outside of the cabbage off. So we're going to rinse that off. Okay, so now we're rinsing the cabbage off. I'm going to leave that in that colander. For some of you all, I know you're used to putting little greens in there. I have some pre-washed kale that I've actually taken off the vein, and it's just the leaf. That's going to add a different type of color to that cabbage that we're going to smother here. And then what we're going to do next is going to get this cleaned off. Okay, so what you're going to use seasoning wise, I have one onion. We're going to use about a half an onion. I've already chopped it. It's in here. We're going to use a little carrots. Carrots sweeten up a little bit. I don't eat pork. You're welcome to use bacon. You're welcome to use I usually use a smoked turkey leg. But since we already have smoked turkey wings and legs eating, I didn't want that redundant of a smoked turkey leg in there. So I'll actually use some turkey bites just to add a little more flavor. Garlic, salt, some fresh garlic, salt, pepper, smoked paprika, sesame sauce, some sugar. This is about 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm not going to use all this sugar. If you use more than 1/4 cup of sugar, you don't have smothered cabbage. You got sweet cabbage rolls. Okay? Then you're going to use, I use balsamic vinegar. And I'm going to tell you why. The more you cook it, it sweetens up and gives a nice undertone in the back after you bite. And then, of course, I have the real butter. Not margarine. Not vegan butter. Butter. Butter makes the world go round. So what we're going to do, I'm going to use about 3 tablespoons. The butter, about 3 tablespoons. And we're going to go over here. And what I'm using is my trusty, dusty turbo cooker. This was purchased, I purchased this about, 16 years ago. And I'll tell you, it has been a lifesaver to me when I was working and going to school and getting my master's and PhD and having a child at home. Turbo cooker is great. You can go from freezer to the pan to make a sauce for spaghetti. It has a great lid, and we'll show you all those things. And they're hard to find right now, and they're still the same price, even 15 years later. So you put the 3 tablespoons of butter in there. Now we're going to add our minced garlic. Now you want to add it in here early, when the butter is still simmering. This right here is about a heaping tablespoon. Okay, we're going to get in there. Now, the thing with garlic, it will burn on you fast. So you want to move this down and turn your heat down to low, because we're going to add flavors to this. So now we got our garlic, and it's kind of simmering and getting that good butter bath, but not country crock. So now we're going to add the onions. And the reason I want to add these onions early on, because I want to get them translucent. You know, my daughter does not like onions. If she sees them, you got onions in this. But, you know, everything I cook got onion. Either it got onion or it got onion powder. So I always make sure my onions go in there first so I can get it all translucent. Right? So we're going to get those all onions, because these onions, I chopped them earlier and I put them in the freezer. And that's one thing you can do, especially if you have a special bell peppers or green pepper, things, produce that goes bad really quickly. So I always get onions, and I always, for every one I cut and use at that time, I take another and I cut it and freeze it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer. Same with my bell peppers and my other onions, because you got to catch those bell peppers on sale, as well as my red and orange peppers. So you'll go in my freezer and you'll see that I always have, 2 or 3 bags of peppers and onions floating around. And celery is the same way. Now, every vegetable can't be cut and put in there, but a lot of your seasoning vegetables, you can. So now that it's simmered, what we're going to do is add some of our shredded carrots. Now, I use the shredded carrots because, first of all, they're not going to take as long to cook as your other carrot, if you got the carrot pieces or if you dice your carrots. And then this way, I always can just add enough for color. And then, so this is probably, I want to say, my hands are kind of small, y'all. So it's probably about 1/4 cup of shredded carrots. So I'm going to take that, move those over, and you want to get those a good stir. So they all catch up together, honey. You don't want the carrots racing with the onions and the onions racing with the garlic. They all end up being good family members. Okay. See how that butter's gone, but it's still in that pan? So now I have the shredded carrots added. Now, interesting enough, you have to add your turkey bacon bites, because these are by nature pretty dry. So you want to add them early on so they have time to moisten with the fluids. So I'm just going to dump the rest of that. That is about 1/4 cup of turkey bacon bites. Once again, remember, you can use any type of flavoring you want. You may not have to. I have people who do it who vegetarians don't add anything. And I'm telling you, baby, by the time you get through adding these other flavors, you may not need no meat in here. But I know who I'm cooking to, and I'm from the South. So I want to make sure that I'm, shout out to my South black roots. So we're going to let that simmer. Now keep that fire down, right? Because it's very important that this gets a good foundation. Because this is your base of what you're going to do for your cabbage. So now, what I'm going to do is add just a little bit of salt. Now, for my people who are on the low salt diet, I applaud you. There's nothing wrong with it, hunty. But for me, in my house, I'ma die with a salt shaker in my hand. Maybe not a salt shaker in one hand, a bag of weave, lay it on my lap, and in my other hand, a piece of chocolate. So I'm just gonna tell you, when you look at my casket, you look in, that's what you're gonna see. Bag of weave in my lap, a salt shaker in the other hand, and a piece of chocolate. What we're gonna do is add that kale, right? Remember I told you about the kale. We're gonna add this kale. And it's already been pre-washed and pulled off the vein, like I told you before. And we're gonna stir that in, give that a good mix. Whoop, that thing wanted to be free, said it won't be in my stomach. We're gonna give that a good stir. Now, you're wondering, why have I not added the cabbage or any fluid? Because cabbage by nature puts off a lot of water, right? So I don't want my cabbage to be watery. I've never liked watery cabbage. And smothered does not mean watery. So I'm going to keep on tossing this around. You know, I'm using a wooden spoon, so I know I'm going to be stirring in my pot here. I don't want to get all that in there. Okay, see how the color's turning a little bit different green right there? It's vibrant, but it's different, not looking all dry. So now that I have that in there, I'm going to add my cabbage a little bit by a little bit. And as I add it, you're like, how's it all going to get in here? Because it's going to cook down. That's what's going to happen. It's going to cook down. Now remember, I added a little seasoning just to my carrots, my onion, and some of the kale. So we're going to layer more flavor in here. Got a trick. Something I didn't show you before, but it's a trick that doesn't fail you. I'm going to add 1 chicken bouillon cube. And you're like, why are you adding that, Dr. T? Because I want it to get that other flavor. And I like not having to add a whole bunch of chicken broth. So I'm going to add that right in the middle. See how I add that? And it's going to cook down. We're going to mash it down, break it up. Toss it in there a little bit. Okay. Now, if I was going with the pure Jamaican thing, at this point I would be saying I need to add some coriander and all that other good Jamaican type flavors to go with the jerk smoked turkey wings. But as I said, since I'm cooking this for my family, which consists of, see, some cabbage got away from me, my daughter and my husband, I'm going to put that in there. And then, right when you thought it couldn't get better, I'm going to add 1/4 a cup of good old water. Now you're like, that looks real like you can't stir it. Exactly. That's where the turbo cooker comes up. Dome lid goes in, hit close. So what it's going to do is going to keep all that moisture. Okay, so we're back. And we have our cabbage. It's about cooked halfway down. You see how it's not all that watery. So now we're going to add our flavor, our seasoning. So I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. Okay. That was probably a teaspoon. We're going to stir that around, get some good flavor. And now I've always brought up, I like the little acidity comes with vinegar. Remember, we're going to use Balsamic vinegar. Gonna stir that around. Oh yeah, if you can smell it right now, you be in heaven. Okay, now we're gonna add some black pepper, the smoked paprika. It's gonna give that smokiness. So even though I didn't use a smoked turkey wing or hock to flavor it, I still get that smoked flavor from that paprika. And one thing I forgot to mention to you all that is my secret weapon, a little nutmeg. Just a pinch. You're going to get that all stirred in there. My heat is still at medium. Remember I told you I cooked this in my turbo cooker. So that's why I didn't add a lot of water to it, because it kept all that water and that moisture without just being just water on your plate. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a little taste to make sure it's at the right acidity and everything else that I want. This is where I want it. The pepper is not too salty. You taste a little turkey in there. Got the onion. Oh yeah. Now, because I know what I'm cooking for, the little sweetness of the balsamic vinegar along with the sugar that I added is going to let that get a good little flavor to it. Now, one thing I want to add, I'm going to my big blackie. This is my fridge. And I'm going to add something I normally don't add, but I do know who I'm cooking for. Add some Louisiana hot sauce. 1, 2, 3. 3 drops. That's all you need. Now, for people who from Louisiana and like the spiciness, they may want more, but you can put it on your own plate. So now, all we have left to do is do the final test. So now, let's taste it. So good. So good. So good. But for me, baby, what's up? And there you have it. Smothered cabbage with carrots and kale.